Over in the Layers palette, we have the Text tool. And if we focus in on it, it has a couple of different ways that it can work. If you click and hold, you'll get those different options, and we can type horizontally or we can type vertically. Depending on your setup, you might also have some dotted line versions, which is creating a selection area that functions like text. But right now, I'm going to keep with the standard one of the horizontal type tool. And both of them, or all of them, are keyed to quick button T. So to start off on a text, I should probably make sure that I'm going to type in a color that I want to use. So I'm going to come up to just a standard black for right now. And that was located at the top in the properties bar. But if I click, it will start to give me a type font. It's set to the properties that I have, and right now it's set to exceptionally large. And we can see that I have it on black oak, and I can change it around to something different. We'll put it on something a little bit neutral, a sans serif Geneva. Then there's different styles. Sometimes next to that, we have our size. And I can drop it down and choose very specific ones, and you can see that it resized it very quickly. Or if I click and drag on the little picture there, I can size it really fluidly. There's another type style where I can change it. Right now I have it set to strong, but we can set it to normal, which has a little bit less, or something different like smooth, which has smoothed out kind of the pixelization that has been happening. I can choose how it's oriented, whether it is flush left, center, or flush right. I can change the color, and I can choose it by the color picker, or I can come around and choose a color somewhere else in the environment, which I can choose this dark gray. I think that's kind of nice. Next on the list of things that I can edit in the properties bar is the text warping tool. So when I click that, I can choose the style that I want it to warp on, and it gives me a bunch of different properties that I can change it to. So we'll change it to an arc. You can see that it types to an arc, and I can change how bendy it is, or how, or if it is a reverse bend. What's not lovely about this is that I can play around with these, as well as it still function as a text. When I first put down text, it usually puts in placeholder text, just so I can just play around with it like I've been doing. But I can click back into it with the text tool. I can delete things, and I can start typing things into whatever it is that I want as normal. So we're just going to put some stuff there so that we can play around with it even further. When I'm done typing in it, I will come up to the top and I will press OK. There's a variety of other things that we can play around with, like the 3D tool, which will take a couple other special settings on your computer. But now that I'm to have the type tool, if I want to edit this further, I'll have to come to a couple other things. If I want to move it, I'm going to have to change to something like the move tool, and I can copy and paste and move it around into my various layers. I can also come back to the text tool, click into it, and then re-edit it some more. I can also press down and hold Command for buttons like resizing really quickly, as well as moving it. But we can always change and go to move or transform in a different tool. The last thing that I want to show you is over in the properties bar. If we come over, we have two different things that can help edit text: the characters and the paragraph. I'm going to pull up the characters, and I'm going to move my text a little bit closer so it's easier to see while I'm editing things. But we can see that we have a lot of the same information that we had at the top. We have our type style, and I'm going to change it and choose my font type. By highlighting it, it'll change those particular letters, and I can change them one at a time. You can see that it'll give us some options. I'm going to change to this one. I can change the type style. Right now, this only has bold, but then there's a lot of other things that we can edit. We can edit the size, making it bigger or smaller. We can also edit a couple other things like how close letters are to each other, or how far apart they are, as well as how stretched out they are, or how thin, or if I want to have certain letters higher than others, as well as we have settings like that down here. You can also stretch out the letters to make them very wide or not. So we have a lot of different options on how you can alter the text. Over on the paragraph side, I can change different indentations as well as whether it's flushed right, left, or center. So I think I'm happy with just what I have right now, and I'm going to press OK. I'm going to move this a little bit again, and actually we'll make this into an actual word. There we go. Now that I've changed it, I can press OK. I might want to change these around a little bit more, move them freely, warp them, or paint in them, just like I would any other aspect of Photoshop. So to do that, I'm going to have to come over to the Layers palette, come to the layer itself, and rasterize it. Before you rasterize, you want to ask yourself whether or not it is the words that you want, because after you rasterize it, you cannot type in it anymore. So if I rasterize it, that'll turn it into a regular layer, and I can do a variety of things like making a selection of that layer and then changing over to the brush tool and painting in things a little bit more. I don't know if making it just slightly darker was all that interesting, but that is something that I can do. So I've altered these, and then I can change to things like the selection tool, and I can make specific selections, warp things, and move things as I would any other aspect in Photoshop. Last thing that can be very helpful is back on the type tool. Instead of just clicking in a place, I can click and drag, and I can define an area that I want to type in. Right now it's hard to see what's actually showing up there because I'm typing in white, so I'm going to change the type font to, I don't know, we'll say red. You can see that it's kind of squished, so I'd have to play around with it so that it fits all right. Words are too close together because I changed my properties. So I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to stretch out the spacing between each line, and then I think I'm going to stretch out the spacing between each letter just a little bit. And just as before, it has filled it with a filler text. If I come down to the bottom, you can see that there's this little plus sign telling us that we have more words that are not being shown. So I can stretch that out, and you can see that it's giving me a bigger area to fill, as well as restructuring the word so that it fills it. And this still has pluses, so I might still have to move it until it can fit my paragraph, if my paragraph was words that I wanted and not just filler text. So that's all for the text tool.